Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 4 of the Developers Unplugged podcast. I've got a special guest here today, Artem. Thank you very much for joining.
Hey, Harry. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I say, it's only my 4th episode of the podcast so far. But yeah, just really, I think it'd be great just to understand because of your experiences, and I think just through your experience in software development as well. I think it'd be great to understand just a little bit about your story, about your kind of how you got where you are today. Obviously, you're currently working at a really quite an exciting company called Bunch as well, which is really awesome. Obviously, we can get into that a bit later on, but like I say, I think it'd be great to maybe just take people back slightly, Artem, if that's okay, to when you first started your career. I mean, did you naturally always know that you wanted to be involved in tech, in software development? Is it something that you knew sort of early on? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would say so. I think from the high school, already doing some, Pascal, quick basic stuff, doing some programming, trying out some, how it's called, Olympic or sports programming. Didn't really like that much because you need to do a lot of hardcore calculations and stuff. I like more high level stuff, but yeah, this is where I started. Definitely, probably most of my life, I already knew I was gonna dedicate my life to computers and stuff.
Was it something that, because like I say, sometimes I speak to people and they answer that question, they say, well, it was an influence from, a good friend of mine or somebody in my family introduced me. Was it kind of like that, or was it something sort of internally that you always thought, you know what, this is going to be my path in my career, like this is what I'm going to be doing?
If I could remember, right, probably one of the influencing things was just games, right? When you're a kid, you're always like, oh, I'm also gonna be doing games, right? So you want to learn how this part is done. So this is probably what was my the earliest thought about trying out programming. I guess that's where it all started. I also just like overall mathematics and science stuff. So it's just interesting. It compensates. It has a lot of those things coming together, right? And I don't like doing too much boring stuff. So
Yeah.
like if you go into mathematics right now, it's very hard to learn something new or do like a scientific progress, if you say like that, right? So it's very hard work, right? But programming kind of combines a little bit more creativity, a little bit more of everything, right? Algorithms, different learnings. Plus, obviously, when you start working with the team, there's a lot of social aspects and organizational aspects, architectural, infrastructural, and then going forward, there's like a very, very important part of writing the program, doing the product is understanding business. So you kind of have to learn everything in the end. And so this is what basically attracts me, is that I don't have to stay in one lane.
100%. And you can take so many different paths, can't you, in tech? It seems to never get boring because it's ever evolving as well, right? I spoke to somebody on episode 3, actually. His name's called Ryan, and I think he mentioned he had 30 years, I think, of experience in software development, and he just said, like, it just always stays fresh, always stays exciting. Like, as soon as you get a little bit bored of something, then another thing comes out, like AI. He was talking a lot about AI and actually quite how I guess how exciting that is. And then obviously in sort of 5 or 10 years time, AI will then maybe not be a thing of the past, because AI is obviously not going anywhere. But there'll be something else, and there'll be something else after that as well. So it's always kind of stayed fresh for him. But I guess when you first started software development, what year was that, Artem?
It probably was around 13 years ago, trying out the first full stack websites using vanilla JS and PHP.
Yeah.
It's fun times. It was very very wild west back then
Oh god,
on
and
how
it
things
still
were
is.
built.
Yeah, so I said, and it still is. It still is in some aspects. And obviously that was 2011, 13 years ago. My maths is correct there. I mean, what kind of challenges did you face in 2011, sort of just starting off as a software engineer?
I mean, that's when you learn, right? So that's the internal challenges are probably the biggest ones when you start. So you just have to spend a couple of years just learning stuff, just really understanding the whole environment. I don't think there's a particular thing you can talk about, like about the industry, right? It's all personal. Like
Yeah.
everything else comes up later.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. And so with sort of when you first started your career, obviously as a software developer in 2011, what was the sort of progression for you? Because of course now you're more of like an engineering manager for a team. How did you get to where you are right now? What did that kind of look like in the sort of last 13 years? Did you mainly stay hands-on for a very long time? You've only just recently switched to more sort of management?
Yeah, got it. So yeah, first couple of years just learning the language, the environment around programs, right? So quickly realized I don't like PHP.
Why is that?
Back then it lacked the type system completely. You can only annotate some things and get some support with like documentation, like it would highlight things, but it didn't have the actual compiler, or didn't like. I think right now it has this more or less a stronger type system, but back then was nothing. And I realized I was creating those classes wrappers around even element, like simple types, like
Yeah,
string and a number, just to make sure it's a string and a number. Like that's kind of stupid that you do this around this thing that's very, very elementary, right? So I didn't like that. Switched to Java, worked a little bit, like 1.5 year for outsourcing company, and then switched to proper product companies after that. Worked probably for 4 more years as a Java backend developer. And then when I started working in a startup, that was like my last job, when I spent most of the time working, it's like 6 years. It was a full on experience. From we just starting like 3 people doing everything, and then
yeah,
growing teams. And because I was there since day zero, obviously I knew a lot of stuff. I started leading teams. Then I became an engineering director in the end, and it was the progression was basically because it was interesting to see if I can make more impact, um, right? Being, instead of individual contributor, like an addition, being a multiplier, right? By making sure that other people work better, that I can support the team, that I can help structure processes, or influence the priorities on the roadmap, right? So this is where a lot of interesting kind of, and this is where the motivation come from to do those things, right? It's not for the title or anything like that. I don't care about this part, but the really important part is that when you are a very strong contributor, when you give
yeah,
your 100%, that's only 100%. That's it. You cannot jump above your head, right? You can do whatever you want. You're never gonna be as fast, as cool, as smart as 2 other people.
sure,
If you have good colleagues, 2 of your good colleagues are better than you, always, always. But you can also help a lot of people. You can help grow people, right? You can help support people. You can help change slow processes, like simple, I don't know, math. You have 50 people in the team. You help all of them become 10% more efficient by removing. I'm not talking about like making them faster, but just removing the slow part, removing things that were blocking them, right? You already 50 people, 10%, right? It's already like 500% improvement. You cannot do it yourself. You cannot do it alone. So this is what interests me in this role. And yeah, and what also helped me kind of get more motivation, get more experience in this is also I did a lot of my own projects. I created a couple of like 4 companies probably. Most
Wow.
of them have failed. Um, one was very successful for 7 years. It was profitable. That's what I mean, very successful. So it wasn't negative. And yeah, it was very fun running this. It was a tattoo parlor. This is where I get this one from.
Nice.
Yeah, and right now I have my own clothing brand business, whatever. It's not profitable yet, so not that very successful, but it's super fun. It's honestly super fun to do something of your own, try and tackle all of the possible problems. Because if you're a small team, right, even in engineering you do already a lot if you're just managing a small team. But if you have a small team of your own, that means you're also doing marketing, you're also doing sales, you're also doing programming if necessary, right? You're also doing all technical parts, you also do strategy, business development, everything. And I think that's what really means using your brain.
Yeah, and I'm sure that is something that you do every single minute of every single day. I guess, obviously, being such a successful engineering manager now, I mean, what would you say makes a great engineering manager? What kind of qualities? I know it's a very difficult question to answer because it's got almost like, where do you stop? But what are like the foundations of a great engineering manager, in your opinion?
Let me answer a bit differently, right? Because engineering manager, it's one of the titles people that you can get. It's not all defined, right? First of all, it's about management, right? People management. So first of all, this role has to be disconnected with like project management, whatever. You can still do that, but it's not what the role entails. If you're like a team lead, if you're a manager, if you're a director, your main responsibility is people, not delivering good projects, right? Not meeting KPIs or OKRs, but it's people. So I think one of the kind of baselines that I've seen a lot of people miss is they misunderstand, right? They think they're climbing the ladder and showing more results, right? They are becoming cooler, stronger, faster. That's not true. Cooler, stronger, and faster should be people under your management, not you should be this, and not your project should be this, right? So the first thing, important thing, is you have to understand that you're not even a mentor, honestly, in this role. You can be also if you have people you can mentor, but your most important part is just to cater to people's needs, make them happy, make their work efficient, as it's supposed to be, like remove blockers and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is like a absolutely must have. If you don't have this, that's it, you're not good.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think almost having like empathy as well, leading with empathy. I think knowing the fact that, like, because I mean, I'm massively a numbers person. Obviously, you mentioned about mathematics as well. I myself in school, like, wasn't very good at any subjects apart from maths. For some reason, I'm just very good when it comes to numbers for some reason. But I think it's important when you are a leader to not look at people as though they are data and that they are numbers. Look at them as though they are human beings. They got families. They're providing for their families. And I think sometimes one of the things that I see that's so common, I think more for huge companies, the real tech giants as such is what they call them, is, just kind of making thousands of layoffs just for no reason, well, not for no reason, of course, but just kind of making loads of layoffs. And it just seems from an external point of view, an outsider point of view, as it's just such a rash thing. And it's just been rushed through like, oh, we'll just quickly save loads of money and we'll just let go of that person, and that person. And that for me is just horrible. And it's such a common thing these days as well, isn't it? I mean, we see it so often, especially in the tech market. layoffs happen so often, and it's just in my opinion, it's being completely out of touch from the above, and lacking empathy as well. Not actually seeing them as human beings for what they are, and really just kind of numbers on a sheet, which is a real shame.
That is true. The underlying reason for this is very non-strategical thinking, not looking ahead, right? And the problem in layoffs is overhiring, right? It's uncontrolled growth.
Yeah.
Growth is a necessary evil, right? You only grow not because you want to get bigger, not because you want more people in your company and spend more salary paying them, right? That nobody says, oh, who can I pay more today? I need 5 more people because I have money lying around.
Yeah.
The thing is, this is literally the requests I got in one of the companies is like, we have money lying around. Who do we pay them to? Like, we have to hire more people. That's literally what I've heard. It's like, we need to deploy the capital. This is a fancy way of saying, oh, we have to spend the money somehow. We don't care how, because investors, they come to you, they see that your company performs well, and then tell you, oh yeah, can you perform 2 times faster, the same thing, 2 times better? Founders like, yeah, of course, why not? I don't see the problem with that, without thinking twice. And like, okay, here's money. And then when you get money, even when you do really well, like you already were doing well, right? The company is going the right direction, everything is good. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to spend now this money, because investors do not let me have it and just sit it there, because they think it's rotting there. They need you to deploy the capital. That's what you do, and you just overhire because you don't have any other better way to spend it. And when the hard times come, that's it. You spent it in a way that didn't really progress you in any way. You don't have a financial cushion, because the hard times come to every company, right? And you already lost all of the trust of your investors because you just spent a lot of money with no returns. So you kind of, all the risks that could happen, that's, you don't have the ways to mitigate them anymore because you already burned all the bridges. And that's why layoffs happen. I mean, it is bad, but I think the unempathetical things happens during hiring, not during firing, almost.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. So do you think that most of the emotion actually goes into that initial growth period?
Yeah, absolutely. Growth period is like, again, growing is a bad thing. You don't want to grow. You just want more money. You want to be more efficient. You don't want to grow. Like, it's not your target. And then you just, yeah, to hell with that. Let's grow.
Yeah. Do you think that people will learn from that? Because it's such a common mistake. I mean, it's so common, isn't it, to have investors, talk to founders and say, look, we'll give you this money, but you need to promise us that you double the revenue in X amount of months or years. And then the founders go, sure, no problem, we'll just increase headcount. Do you think that will change? Do you think people will learn from that in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, first of all, investors have to learn this, because people will take money, always. Doesn't matter how smart you are. I mean, it does, of course. 90% of the time, people will take money. Right?
Sure.
If you're super smart, you'd say no. Like, you don't want to dilute your equity. You don't want to, get into this hostage situation because you took money, right? And your growth plans. Like, if you read whatever Good to Great, I think they have this. They mention sometimes, right, that the companies that have growth plans, and not only they need to meet them, they also don't want to exceed them, right? They have, like, okay, we have to increase the revenue every year by 12%, but tops 20. If we increase by 30, we don't do that. We basically don't push for that anymore. We relax, we spend money to whatever, fix our mistakes, whatever we had. We don't go above 20. And they deny this opportunity to improve, grow the revenue, because growing uncontrollably is always a big risk, right? You have more customers, you have more employees. There's a lot more ways to fail, right? And investors right now, I think they learn a lot, and this is a one like those layoffs, those failures of those companies because of the burn rate that they had,
Yeah.
right? Originally. Um, you can see probably in the market, especially you can see that uh, like how hiring became a lot slower these days. It is investors definitely learn they kind of don't trust IT industry anymore, which is not true. They just being cautious now a lot more with that. They don't think it's this golden chicken anymore. It's a proper business, which like any other business, unless it's AI. If it's AI, then yeah, get all the money. Um, but yeah, definitely they learn, and the founders learn. I see that at least in Europe, that's a bit better because US has still too much money to just burn through. US don't learn that well. They have too much money to learn.
No.
Um, you know how they say it's for investors, like if you're stupid, you also better be rich. Um, but yeah, definitely, I see people control the growth very, very um, carefully now. A lot of people are very careful now. The overhiring doesn't happen as much right now, at least as I can see. Investors, instead of spending a lot of money on one company, they would just the money will not go anywhere, right? A lot of people ask me, "Oh, where do all of those people go now that investors don't want to invest into those big companies, right? They don't want to, do this explosive growth anymore. What happens? It's just going to be more companies.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. Like there's going to be like the fragmentation happen. There's going to be a lot more smaller companies, which is good. More ideas,
Mm.
vibrant community, more kind of survivability, right? There's things that will try and die. There will be little damage done to your broader economy or overall investment
Yeah.
portfolio, right? So I think it's a good thing. I think like market doesn't need to learn, it will tell you if it works or not.
Yeah.
And so eventually I think it's improving in a sense.
I think we're slowly learning, aren't we? It's quite funny, really. I think as human beings, we always we kind of, I don't know, we just have something embedded into our brains to kind of be maybe naive to a degree, to be like, oh, that won't happen to us,
Yes.
if we hire loads of people, it's going to go great. And maybe even when it's happened before and it hasn't worked out, I think people are still kind of falling into that trap of like, oh, let's just hire, like, let's double their headcount in 3 months. Let's just double it. Like, why not? And it's tough, isn't it? It is tough. Do you kind of get anxious when you see maybe like other companies that are in that kind of hyper growth phase? Because in your head you're thinking, oh my God, that could be catastrophic. Do you kind of have those feelings whenever you see that in your network?
I mean, not anxious myself for my right, but I absolutely do. Yeah, as like I basically almost don't trust any big company that they have it under control, right? That includes like Google and Amazon, right? At this point you also can see a lot of sad stories coming through
Yeah.
outside of those organizations, like culturally and organizationally, and how you can grow and learn there in those organizations. Not everywhere, because they're big. They also have very good small, kind of isolated teams, products, whatever. They're still pretty good, but
Yeah.
overall, you can see that compared to when they started, a lot of things deteriorated, right? And yeah, I think scaling organization, growing, is one of the most complicated things. It's one of the most hardest things, and one of the most dangerous and damaging things to organizations. That's, as I said, that's not what you want to do. But if you do it very carefully, very slowly, then you can still, you can even benefit from it by acquiring some amazing talent, etc. Still, you
Mm.
would always pay for it. There's administrative cost just to having more people, right? There's a culture. Again, if you growing not carefully, there's a culture damage to your company. There's just risks of, not everyone might be a great talent that you hire. Right? It might slip somehow, and those risks will accumulate. So hypergrowth will kill you 99% of the times, I'm sure. Like nobody ever mastered this one. It's super dangerous. Slow growth is good, but still, as soon there is a critical mass. Like at some point, no matter how hard you try, no matter how good your culture is, it will be just those two groups of people. They cannot be one anymore. They will
Yeah.
grow apart, and something will happen. It will happen. It might be becoming better. Who knows if you're that lucky? But it's becoming different from what you, as a leader, like as a founder, envisioned. It will disconnect from original vision. If you're lucky, might be still working out, but usually it falls apart.
You mentioned about, because I know that we've spoken obviously about the sort of repercussions of hypergrowth. Obviously, we've seen it. I see it all of the time, of course. And you mentioned that 99% of companies that experience hypergrowth, it is usually quite damaging to the company in the long term. That 1%, obviously, there are times where companies can successfully hypergrow. It's rare, and it's something that you don't see often. But if done effectively, is obviously a great thing. How do you feel that a company could sort of successfully hypergrow if they wanted to in a short amount of time? Is there a way that you can kind of think of, any sort of suggestions that you could give in terms of maybe like the recruitment process?
It has to be a specific situation, right? First is that it has to be different from other companies. Like if you literally don't care about the culture, right? You might like your growth might be your goal, right? And you build it the way that it's not as important to have everything perfect, to have this good culture, to have this good process, to have this, but this somehow has to be isolated from like the core of the company. So I don't see the hyper growth like culture. I don't see surviving learning opportunities. I don't see surviving. Like it's almost impossible to me. Again, you can still grow, but you need to be basically kind of planning for it to be a resource, right? Not a community, right? So you kind of have to be less how you said, empathetic, right?
Yeah.
So because if that's your goal, if you were, let's say, maybe you're very profitable and you only attract people by profit, you can do that, right? Like if you pay enough, that's a good thing. I love money as well. Why not, right? It can be a good thing for people. They quickly get some money and then maybe move on later, and you can grow like that. But what else? I don't know.
Do you think that it damages the onboarding process? There's like this. Let's say, for example, if we're in a hypergrowth company and we're joining amongst sort of 15 other engineers, does that damage people's onboarding experience overall because they're maybe not getting as much attention?
Absolutely does. The problem is, right, if you establish the good onboarding process, it's also usually depends on people, right? So they have to be like there has to be a like an environment, a friendly environment, a welcoming environment of experimentation and failure, where failure is good, right? Because this is how you learn. And if one of those things are not transferred to another part of the team where there's another management cell that onboards people, doesn't value one of those things, then the onboarding experience is ruined, right? If you're not allowed to fail, for example, how you can experiment, how you can feel safe, and how you can fun at work, nothing works anymore, right? So it's not like it's impossible, but risks with every added person, the risk grows and grows, that this thing that you established in a company, which you think is great, and which it is great, it's not going to be the same thing. Like 50 people apart from us, 50 hires later, it might not be the same thing anymore, right? People might not. It's a usual exercise with the broken phone game, right? One says one thing, another understands another thing, and that's it. Like this process doesn't work anymore. It has to be such an integrate, like everything that you talk about that is human related has to be such an, it's like a diffusion, right? It's like a, if you have a clear bottle of water, if you drop one small whatever like drop of paint, it will diffuse and it will basically remain clear, right?
Yeah.
But if you start, right, so it's like kind of, it consumes it like, right? But if you have small components that don't talk to each other and they don't have this strong culture that will diffuse, that will accept a lot of things and will process it.
Yeah.
If you drop it in a small cup, the cup will change its color, right, very quickly. Same with culture, same with any human related processes. We support each other. And we also poison each other, kind of spoil each other, right? The same way. So one bad person, maybe untrained person, maybe just unskilled person yet,
Yeah.
goes into a good environment, gets trained, right? But what good person in a bad environment, or multiple bad people, unskilled people, I don't mean like bad, like evil, but a big group of unskilled people injected into any environment, they will get others unskilled.
Yeah. Do you think that that's probably one of the best pieces of advice that you could maybe give to maybe more sort of junior engineers, sort of considering options, is maybe don't look so much at the salary package, but look about the people that you're going to be surrounded by. You know, if they're super talented engineers where you can really learn from and grow from, then take that opportunity as soon as you can get it and pick up what it is that they can obviously teach you. Is that something that you could recommend to obviously more sort of junior engineers?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my friend, I think he was a junior engineer, and he told me that he joined one office environment, and he's right now, right? He's awesome guy. He's one of the best front-end engineers I've worked with.
Oh, nice.
He's super nice, super cool guy. And he said he joined the team where it was basically okay to scream at each other and blame each other. In 2 months, he started to basically scream at people and say, "This is your fault. This is what you did." And he's like, "Oh my God, what am I becoming?" Right? It's like, no matter how good you are, the society will win.
Yeah, the people around you are the people that you become. You know,
Yeah,
like you pick up traits subconsciously from people, and that's good traits and that's bad traits. That's why it's so important, I think, just in life to be surrounded by good people, but actually professionally as well as a software developer, you know, be around proper software developers, be around people that actually have good habits, that have a good mentality to software development, and you'll naturally start picking up exactly what it is that they are and becoming what they are. And like I said, I think that's so important when it comes to considering options. Sorry?
Yeah, and by the way, it's the same for seniors, right? Because juniors, they have a lot to learn. Seniors, they have a lot to forget. They have a lot to relearn, right? And for seniors, it's even hard. Like junior, at least, like if you're open-minded, if you don't have this baggage of experience, even in slightly worse environment, right, you would still level up.
Yeah.
You would. Senior would not. Senior really needs a very challenging environment, very smart, very safe, because you're going to be challenged. All of your opinions, or like 10s and 20s and 30 years of experience, they're going to be challenged. So environment, first of all, has to be kind of welcome and safe, right? Because then it's hard for, even if you're super smart, it's hard for you to accept feedback if it's just toxic, right? Even if it's correct. Like toxic feedback, nobody wants that.
No.
So it has to be acceptive and good environment, but it also has to be with very, very smart people. Otherwise, how do you learn? Like for you, it's now, if you are the smartest person in the room, that's it. What are you supposed to do next?
They always say, they always say sort of hire the people better than you, don't they? A very common saying. Is that something that you do when you're sort of considering obviously engineers to join your team? Do you always almost look at them and kind of think, I need to get something from them. I need to be learning from them, an element?
Absolutely. Great example that we had I also talked about it before, is we interviewed one person and we asked them, hey, we have this such problem. We're looking at authorization providers, and we don't like our current one. What do you think we should do? Like, this is the interview question, right? So we didn't hire this person, but we implemented his answer. Half a year later, like, it's a lot of work changing authorization provider. He told us about what he did, what he tried, why it's good, why it's not. We actually wanted to hire this person because the answer was great. We wanted to hire. He got another offer, right? So we didn't hire him. But that's already a great example of a person smarter than you, because we are using it now, and it was great advice. And this is basically two things that you should already consider interview: how it can be useful to you, why not, right? Spend the time asking proper questions, right? The ones that you want to solve, not just want to answer. And second, yes, absolutely find people who can tell you things. If they cannot teach you, like, I don't know, we're people, we learn so many different things. They have to know something different from you. They have to have something to teach you, right?
Yeah, I think it's also good having a nice mixture of people. So, not just hiring the same person. It may be that you have two front-end positions, senior front-end positions open in your team, but actually sometimes it's actually really quite beneficial to hire completely different personalities that can complement the team in different ways, because it's just when it comes to discussions, group discussions, like problem solving, meetings that you guys have, they're usually the people that can actually give the most value when it comes to obviously giving their ideas and some of the ways that they can implement it, other than so it's just a completely different perspective. And I don't know about you, Artem, but I often find that junior engineers actually sometimes have some of the best sort of ideas when it comes to solving problems and how to face sort of the challenges that the team's facing at the moment. Like, and that seems like really surprising to a lot of people, but I actually don't think that's surprising at all, because they come from a completely different perspective. They're fresh in their mind, and oftentimes actually give the seniors a run for their money, right?
Absolutely. That happens with us actually also quite sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. They can definitely add a lot more value, I think, than people realize. But Artem, look, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and yeah, it's been brilliant. Obviously, just learning a bit more. Obviously, just such a great insight from the experience that you've got. Obviously, 13 years in software development. So thank you so much for being a guest on the fourth ever episode. The fourth ever episode? That doesn't even sound right, does it? The fourth episode of Developers Unplugged.
Yeah, thank you too.
Thanks, man.